Chapter 4 Care, Behavior, and Training of Your Foster Dog. You will probably want to give your foster dog the best of everything: food, vet care, training, attention. After all, why not? You are committed to doing everything you can, so why not give him the care and training he needs to have the best chance possible for a long and happy life? Caring for your foster dog's physical needs involves a number of things, including food and diet, grooming, veterinary care, equipment and training tools, and exercise. Food and diet. Your idea of the best dog food may differ from that of the shelter or rescue you are working with. Perhaps you believe raw is the best of the best and the only way to go. Your agency may not want you to feed raw. They may have access to donated food or a good deal on purchased food because they get it in large quantities. They might want you to use their food so they don't have to pay extra for your dog's meals. Even if you are willing to pay for it yourself, they may want to keep him on their food so his diet is consistent. If you want to stay on good terms with your foster organization, you'll need to abide by their wishes, unless you can educate them about the importance of good nutrition for dogs and get them to agree with your feeding choices. If they do agree to give you free rein on feeding, be sure your foster dog comes with a week's supply of the food he's been eating, and then switch him over gradually to your diet of choice. Sudden dietary changes can cause gastrointestinal upset, read diarrhea, and that's the last thing you need to be dealing with as you help your foster settle into his temporary quarters. When it's time for him to go back to the shelter or to his new home, send a week's supply of your food along with him so his new caretakers can switch him gradually to his new diet plan. While a top quality diet is certainly the best option for any dog, plenty of dogs survive in perfect health on low to medium grade foods, the kind available at most grocery stores. So it's not the end of the world if your group insists you feed their less than ideal diet. If you are allowed to choose, here are some things to look for to help you separate great foods from less great foods. Lots of animal protein at the top of the ingredients list. Ingredients are listed by weight, so you want to see a lot of top quality animal protein at the top of the list. The first ingredient should be a named animal protein source. See next bullet. A named animal protein: chicken, beef, lamb, and so on. Generic meat is an example of a low-quality protein source of dubious origin. The label should say chicken, beef, lamb, etc. Animal protein meals should also be from named species. Look for chicken meal, but avoid meat meal or poultry meal. Also avoid byproduct in relation to protein source. No chicken byproduct, lamb byproduct, etc. When a fresh meat is first on the ingredient list, there should be an animal protein meal in a supporting role to augment the total animal protein in the diet. Fresh or frozen, meat contains a lot of water and water is heavy, so if a fresh meat is first on the list, another source of animal protein should be listed in the top 3 or so ingredients. Whole vegetable, fruits, and grains. Fresh, unprocessed food ingredients contain nutrients in all their natural complex glory with their fragile vitamins, enzymes, and antioxidants intact. Don't be alarmed by one or two food fractions, a byproduct or part of an ingredient, like tomato pomace or rice bran, especially if they are low on the ingredients list. But it's less than ideal if there are several fractions present in the food and or they appear high on the ingredients list. A best by date that's at least 6 months away. A best by date that's 10 or 11 months away is ideal. It means the food was made very recently. Note, foods made with synthetic preservatives like BHA, BHT, and ethoxyquin may have a best by date that is as much as 2 years past the date of manufacture. The following are things you don't want to see in the ingredients: meat byproducts, poultry byproducts, or feather meal. High-value ingredients are processed and stored more carefully, kept clean and cold, than lower-cost ingredients such as byproducts by meat processors. A generic fat source such as animal fat. This can literally be any fat of animal origin, including used restaurant grease. Poultry fat is not quite as suspect as animal fat, but chicken fat or duck fat is better and traceable. Added sweeteners. Dogs, like humans, enjoy the taste of sweet foods. Sweeteners effectively persuade many dogs to eat foods composed mainly of grain fragments and containing little healthy animal protein. artificial colors, flavors, or preservatives, i.e., BHA, BHT, and ethoxyquin. The color of the food doesn't matter to your dog, and it should be flavored well enough to be enticing with healthy meats and fats. Natural preservatives such as tocopherols, vitamin E, vitamin C, and rosemary extract can be used instead. Note that natural preservatives do not preserve foods as long as artificial preservatives, so owners should always check the best by date on the label and look for relatively fresh products. Ingredients from China. Some of the largest and worst contaminated food cases have involved products that contain foods from China. Avoid all foods that contain products from China. The country of ingredient origin is often not listed on the bag or can, so you may need to do some research. Check websites or contact the company live to confirm their products are China feed free. Feeding schedule. Most dogs need to eliminate shortly after eating, so be sure to schedule your dog's meals at a time when you can give them a potty break 20 to 30 minutes later, sooner for puppies. You want to be sure that they are empty when you leave for work and when you go to bed at night. For this reason and for several others, I am a major fan of feeding dogs regular meals rather than free feeding. If you have multiple dogs in the household and you free feed, fill a bowl with food and put it on the floor refilling as needed, you can't know or regulate how much each dog eats. Free feeding risks resource guarding issues with possible fights and less assertive dogs not getting enough nutrition and being very stressed because they are being kept away from the food by more assertive dogs. You don't know when a dog is off his feed if his food is available all the time. My dogs all lick their bowls clean within 10 minutes maximum of bowl delivery, usually 5 minutes. If a dog doesn't empty his bowl one meal, I'm on high alert for a health issue. If 2 meals are missed, I'm on the phone to the vet. House training goes more smoothly with meals. It's easier to manage output if you control input. You can control weight more easily with meals. Thin dogs get more food, overweight dogs get less. You can use meal times to training advantage, either by using the dog's meals for training sessions throughout the day or by scheduling meals to follow training sessions, taking advantage of your dog's empty stomach to maximize the impact of your positive reinforcement training. Grooming. Your foster dog may or may not tolerate necessary grooming procedures. This is a great time to help him learn that activities such as grooming, nail trimming, and toothbrushing are enjoyable, not scary. If your dog has been coerced into submitting to these procedures in the past, he may become quite violent when you attempt to brush his coat or teeth or trim his nails. The key is to give him a positive association with the tools involved and only very slowly actually begin using them. Start by simply determining if your foster is sensitive to being touched anywhere. Gently touch and pet him all over the normal places. Scratch under his chin, stroke his back and sides, rest your hand on top of his head, look in his ears, lift his lips to look at his teeth, and gently lift each paw. Jot down a note about any places where he becomes tense, pulls away, or worse, growls or snaps. Do not punish him for growling or snapping. He is trying to tell you as politely as he knows how that he doesn't like what you're doing. Rather than punishing him for communicating, respect his message and commit to helping him become more comfortable with being touched. Punishment will only confirm his conviction that being touched is bad. Counter-conditioning and desensitization, on the other hand, will convince him that being touched is wonderful. You will find more details on CC&D program in the section that follows. It's almost magical to watch an effective CC&D program in progress. Some behavior changes I've seen as a result of this kind of behavior modification have been nothing short of miraculous, such as one family's chow mix and newly adopted chow who wanted to tear each other to shreds, but became fast friends within 3 weeks when the owners implemented a CC&D program. Reprogramming for grooming tolerance. Perhaps your foster dog will tolerate a light touch on the top of his head and a gentle scratch under his chin, but if he becomes very tense, if you do more than that, and if efforts to touch his legs and feet or hindquarters and tail elect serious warnings, be on the lookout for forthcoming aggression. You must believe him and wisely don't press the issue. View even simple but necessary procedures such as nail trimmings and baths as stressful and dangerous. Your dog needs some reprogramming. The first step in your program is to have a complete and thorough veterinary exam and an adjunct visit to a chiropractor if your veterinarian isn't skilled in that practice. Pain is a huge contributor to aggression. If he's hurting, all the CC&D in the world won't change his opinion of being touched. It hurts. Session 1. With a clean bill of health, you're ready to begin. You'll need a large supply of absolutely scrumptious treats. Canned chicken, rinsed and drained, is my favorite for CC&D purposes. Most dogs totally love it. Pick a comfortable spot on a bed that your dog loves, or lay down a cushion or a soft, thick blanket for the two of you to sit on. Attach a leash to your dog's collar so you don't have to grab him to keep him with you. The sequence of the next part is very important. You will touch your dog's head first, very briefly, say for 1 second, and feed him a tiny bit of chicken while your hand is still touching him. The touch must come first because you want him to understand that the touch makes the chicken happen. If you feed chicken first, then touch, he won't make that connection. Keep repeating this step until your touch causes him to look at you with a smiling face as if he's saying, "All right, you touched me, yay, where's my chicken?" You want the "where's my chicken?" WMC response to happen reliably several times in a row before you proceed to the next step. Good job! You've accomplished the first tiny step on a long road. He thinks being touched softly and briefly on the head is a wonderful thing. Now you must decide whether to stop the session, ending on a high note, or continue on because you are both having a wonderful time and don't want the session to end. If you're unsure how much longer he will work with you, it's better to stop sooner while you're ahead than to push it too far and suffer a setback. If you proceed, the next step might be to touch him on the head, still very gently, but for 2 seconds. You may lose the WMC response at first as he adjusts to the increased time, but it will probably return quickly. Continue to increase the time very gradually so you don't lose the progress you've made. As the touches get longer, feed him several treats in rapid succession while you are touching. Remember to stop the treats when the touch stops. Be sure to end the session before one or both of you gets bored, tired, stressed, or frustrated. You can always do another session later today or tomorrow. If you sense that he's thinking about getting restless, stop the session, feed him a few extra tidbits for being a wonderful boy, and release him with an "all done" cue. Next time, stop a little sooner. You don't even want him to think about getting restless. Session 2. Taking the next step. When you start up again with your next session, back up a little. If you ended with 5-second gentle touches on your dog's head, start with 2-second touches. You'll be able to progress more quickly back up to 5 seconds, but you want to be sure to start with his comfort level and warm up to the place where you ended. When he has a positive association with gentle touching up to perhaps 10 seconds, you can increase the intensity of a different stimulus, the amount of pressure. Each time you raise the bar for a new stimulus, lower it for the others. In this case, you might go back to 2 or 3 seconds with a slightly stronger pressure when you touch. Work to get that positive WMC response with the new amount of pressure at each length of time before you increase the time again. When he's responding happily to a moderate amount of touch pressure at 10 to 15 seconds, you can increase the intensity of the third stimulus in the touch package, the position of your hand. Up until now, you've been touching him in his most accepting spot, the top of his head. Now you're going to begin to move your hand to more sensitive places, again reducing the intensity of the other two stimuli, time and pressure. Perhaps you'll try ears first. Returning to a very gentle touch, stroke one ear for 1 to 2 seconds and feed chicken while you stroke. Repeat this until you're getting his WMC response to the ear stroking, then do the same with the other ear. Gradually increase the length of time you stroke each ear gently, and when you're getting positive responses to 10-second ear stroking, it's time to increase the pressure. Shorten your ear strokes back to 1 to 3 seconds, but stroke the ear a bit more firmly. Remember to be very generous with your chicken bits, feeding a morsel or two every time you stroke the ear, and several morsels as the touches get longer. When he's happy to have you stroke both ears firmly for 10 to 15 seconds or longer, you can move to a new spot. Don't forget to reduce the other stimuli each time you move to a new touching place. After the ears, you might run your hand down the back of his neck, gently and briefly. Treat as you touch. You should find that as you work toward various new spots around your dog's legs and body, he will accept new touches more quickly in many places. Adjust your pace to his behavior. If he seems slower to respond, you're probably working on or near a very sensitive place, and you need to slow the program down. He'll tell you how slowly or quickly you can progress. Listen to him. Attempts to force him to accept your touching will backfire big time. Sensitive places. Many dogs, even those who are comfortable being touched elsewhere, are tense about having their feet handled. Take extra care as you begin to move down your foster dog's legs. A few extra days or weeks now will pay you jackpots in the long run when you can finally clip his nails without a violent struggle. Spend lots of time massaging the areas where your dog has come to enjoy being touched, and occasionally work on the more sensitive spots. In addition to the chicken, soothing massage adds a powerful positive association to the message that you are planting in his brain. Remember that it's critically important to avoid triggering the negative associations outside your CC&D sessions. If you forget about his sensitivities and grab him during a real-life moment, you can set your program back. It won't hurt to skip 1 or 2 nail trimming sessions while you work to get him to accept foot handling without a fight. Make sure that others are aware of the importance of respecting the CC&D program too. There's nothing like having a friend or family member that thinks it's funny to see your dog's negative reaction when they play grab your paws, thereby undoing all the good work you've done. Grr! I've been known to banish human acquaintances from my household for less. In his own time. How quickly you complete your grooming and touching CC&D program depends on several factors. Your foster dog's age and how long the behavior has been happening, the intensity of his negative association with touch, the cause of his sensitivity. Prior harsh handling is likely to be more difficult to overcome than lack of handling since he has a negative association with the human presence as well as a sensitivity to touch itself. Status of physical contributors to the sensitivity. If your dog has a grass allergy that causes inflammation in his pads, for example, your constant struggle to reduce the discomfort in his feet will slow your CC&D progress. Your commitment to implementing the program on a daily basis. Several short sessions a day are generally more effective than one long daily session. Your skill at reading your dog's comfort level and moving the program forward at an appropriate pace without triggering negative reactions. Success. The success rate for touch CC&D programs is high. Unlike modification programs for things like dog reactivity, where it's difficult to control all the variables, you can manage the factors of a touch modification program with relative ease. Chances are good that even if you don't achieve 100% positive association with touching every part of your dog's body, you can accomplish a positive response for much of it, with agreeable acceptance for the highly sensitive parts. Veterinary care. This section will be short as I am not a veterinarian and it would be inappropriate for me to try to give specific advice about what veterinary care is needed or appropriate for your foster dog. Here are some general suggestions. Rabies vaccinations are required by law in most places, if not all, in the U.S. Your foster dog should have this shot before you take custody of him unless he is still too young of a pup for shots. If it ends up being a long-term foster, over a year, you will need to be sure he gets his first rabies booster 12 months later. After the first year booster, additional boosters are required on a 1, 2, or 3-year basis, depending on where you live. Laws vary from state to state. The need for other types of vaccinations varies depending on your location, your dog's age, and prior medical history. Discuss this with your veterinarian and foster agency. There is an increasing trend across the country towards less frequent and fewer vaccinations. You may want to do some online searches for resources that discuss this subject. Deworming can, again, be region-specific for some internal parasites, although roundworms and tapeworms, at least, are pretty universal. Do a little research to find out what other parasites might be common in your region. Puppies are most likely to be susceptible to roundworm infestation. They get them from their mothers, and are pretty much routinely dewormed. Check with your organization to see if your foster pups have been checked and treated for roundworms. You may need to provide a stool sample to your veterinarian. Signs of roundworms include a bulgy, pot-bellied appearance, general failure to thrive, a poor coat, and spaghetti-like worms in stool or vomit. Tapeworms come from fleas that are ingested by the dog, either by chewing at and swallowing fleas that are on his own skin, or by consuming fleas on captured prey animals such as bunnies and squirrels. Yes, dogs are dogs, and many of them, given the opportunity, do chase, catch, kill, and eat small prey animals. Tapeworms also cause an unthrifty appearance, although not usually the potbelly look, and you may see dried segments in feces or on the dog's anal area that look like small white grains of rice. Live tapeworms are flat, segmented, white, with a triangular head. Again, you may need to provide a stool sample, although if you report and describe seeing tapeworms, most vets will dispense dewormer without requiring a fecal sample. It is appropriate to use flea and tick control measures in many parts of the world, both for the dog's own comfort as well as to protect from tick-borne diseases such as Lyme, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and more. Have a conversation with your veterinarian and foster organization to determine what measures are needed in your part of the world and which ones are appropriate for your specific foster dog. Some breeds are sensitive to some products. Blood tests are necessary to confirm the absence, hopefully, or presence of heartworm and Lyme disease, among others, prior to treatment or the use of preventatives. A senior blood panel is recommended for older dogs and may also be necessary for younger dogs to identify an undiagnosed illness. Communicate with your group and your veterinarians if you think a blood panel is indicated or recommended, and follow their instructions. I suggest having a good medical resource in your library, such as Merck's Veterinary Manual. Minor medical needs can happen anytime. A cut of unknown origin on the paw pad, itching, ear mites, dental needs. Have an understanding with your group in writing that specifies how minor medical needs are handled. Pregnant females require extra care and attention. If you are thinking of caring for a mom dog to be, talk with your vet and the rescue group about what to expect, what to look for, and what additional care will be needed. Protocol for handling catastrophic medical needs also must be addressed before they occur. Hopefully they won't ever, but despite your careful attention, life-threatening and deliberating emergencies can and do happen. Torsion, bloat, broken limbs, hemorrhagic gastroenteritis, cruciate ligament tears, ingestion of toxins. The list, unfortunately, is endless. In the unlikely chance that something serious does happen, a prior understanding in writing of how to proceed can take at least some of the angst away from a very angst-generating experience. You need to know, will your foster organization pay for emergency care? If so, is there a cap on spending for an emergency event? Must you go to the group's designated veterinarian, or can you go to your choice in an emergency? If you must use their designated vet, what if it's after hours or weekends when their vet isn't available? What if their vet is too far away? Who do you contact to make emergency treatment decisions? What if that person cannot be reached? Can you make the decisions, or do you need to contact a backup person? If the cost will exceed the group's spending cap, can you pay for treatment yourself? If treatment is failing or appeals futile, who can make decisions about euthanasia? Equipment and training tools. Tags and a flat collar. You can never have too much identification on your foster dog. Well, maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but you certainly want to be able to get him back as easily and as quickly as possible should he manage to slip away from you. At minimum, a tag with your contact information and one with the contact information of your organization and a license, if one is required, should be on his flat buckle collar at all times, and he should be wearing that collar at all times. If you're concerned about the small possibility that tags could get caught in crate wires or heating vents, have them riveted to his collar so they don't dangle. Microchips. Permanent identification is also useful. Many shelters and rescues now routinely microchip their canine charges, and most shelters around the U.S. have scanners with which they check all incoming animals. If your foster is not already chipped when he comes to you, ask your group about the possibility of having it done for extra safe keeping. Tattoos. Tattooing has somewhat fallen out of favor for identification purposes because tracking tattoos often proves difficult. If your foster is tattooed, find out if your group had it done. If not, ask if they make an effort to trace the tattoo back to an owner. If they didn't, you have a detective job to do. Google dog tattoo and get started. If they did try to trace it, they may have been unsuccessful. If your group had the tattoo done themselves, ask where the tattoo is registered and note the tattoo and registry contact information in your foster records. If he does go missing, you'll want to have access to it so you can let the registry know he is missing and to contact you if he is found. GPS. Yes, you can now purchase a GPS tracker for your dog. I have one called Tag the Pet Tracker. This is a rechargeable battery powered unit that attaches to a special collar that comes with the tag. You register the dog on your computer, and if he escapes, you can track him on a computer or smartphone. There's an app for that. Speaking from personal experience, I can attest to the peace of mind this product provides if you have a dog prone to going walkabout. Since you will probably have a succession of foster dogs over time, you could register your tag to Foster. When your current dog finds his forever home, just remove the collar and tag and put it on the next one. Exercise. One of the easiest and most effective things you can do to benefit your foster dog is to give him plenty of exercise. A surprising number of canine behavioral challenges can be mitigated simply by the addition of a good exercise program. Let me repeat that. A surprising number of behavioral challenges can be mitigated simply by the addition of a good exercise program. Many of our fosters who came with some aggressive behaviors related to low tolerance for frustration and low impulse control fared as well as they did because we could take them for hikes several times a day on our 80-acre farm. Exercise does not just use up energy your foster might otherwise apply to unwanted behavioral endeavors. A good aerobic exercise session causes a release of mood-enhancing feel-good endorphins, just like it does for humans. It makes them happier, and that's a good thing. If you don't have access to a safe off-leash run until you drop hiking area for your foster, look for other alternatives for real aerobic exercise. You might try using a long line, a 15 to 50-foot leash that gives your dog more freedom to run. A walk on leash is not sufficient exercise for most dogs. In fact, a walk on leash is an exercise hors d'oeuvres for most dogs and can be very frustrating for them. I suggest to many of my clients that they exercise their dogs in the backyard with 20 minutes of frisbee or ball chasing before they go for a walk on a leash, and I'll suggest the same to you. You and your foster dog will enjoy the walk more if the dog isn't exploding with energy. Mental exercise can be as tiring as physical exercise for many dogs. Invest in some interactive puzzle toys, get a good book on shaping, play nose games with your dog, and you may be surprised by how effectively those activities take the wind out of his sails. 6 exercise caveats. While exercise is indeed a cure-all for many behavioral ills, there are times when it's not the right thing to do, and there are some kinds of exercise that are better avoided. Here are some cautionary notes to keep in mind as you plan your foster dog's exercise program. 1. Start slowly and check with your dog's veterinarian before you start. Just as with humans, a dog who is unfit or overweight can be physically harmed by too much exercise. These dogs need to build gradually to more strenuous exercise sessions. 2. Be aware of any limiting physical conditions. If your foster had recent surgery, exercise needs to wait until he is healed. Follow the veterinarian's instructions. If your dog shows any signs of lameness or stiffness as you introduce this exercise program, a visit to the vet is in order to determine if it's just a muscle soreness or if he has a more serious medical condition such as hip dysplasia, arthritis, a torn ACL, etc. If your foster seems reluctant to exercise, have him checked for medical problems. 3. Watch the heat. If you are in a hot summer season or just experiencing unseasonably warm weather, exercise your foster dog in the early morning or after dark, if and when things cool off. Dogs can overheat quickly and easily in warm weather, and heat stroke is nothing to play with. 4. Beware hard surfaces such as asphalt. Pavement can become extremely hot in warm weather and burn your dog's pads. Also, high-impact games such as frisbee catching should be done on a surface that has some give to reduce the chance of injury and development of arthritis. 5. Be careful with brachycephalic breeds. These are dogs like pugs and English bulldogs who have very flat faces. They have inherent breathing difficulties and cannot exercise as vigorously as longer-nosed dogs. Ask your veterinarian how much exercise is appropriate for your short-nosed foster dog. 6. Avoid inappropriate activities that encourage undesirable behaviors. Games that encourage your foster dog to put his mouth on or jump roughly at humans reinforce behaviors that might get him in future trouble. Play games and exercise with him in ways that reinforce desirable behaviors. Playing tug with a designated tug toy is great. Playing tug with clothing or human body parts is not. Jumping over jumps is terrific. Jumping roughly on humans is not. If you have any doubt about whether a particular activity is appropriate or not, ask your friendly neighborhood positive reinforcement trainer or contact your foster organization and ask them. Behavior and basic training. While you may only have your foster dog in your home for a relatively short time, knowing the basics of dog behavior and how to train simple behaviors will help ensure the time the dog is with you goes as well as it can. Plus, it provides a real leg up for whoever adopts the dog on a permanent basis. By being proactive and providing the dog with a solid training foundation, you can avoid many of the problem behaviors that unfortunately may arise. We will cover how to deal with problem behaviors in chapters 5 through 9. Dog Behavior 101. If you are going to be working with dogs, especially dogs who may be in need of some rehabilitation, it's important that you have a working knowledge of some basic behavior principles. This will help you avoid the pitfalls of some of the off-the-cuff advice you may get from friends and family, as well as some of the dangerous misinformation you can find on television, information that can actually do more harm than good. First, and most important, it's not about dominance. See Chapter 5, Problem Behavior, The Myth of Dominance and Alpha. You don't need to show your foster dog who's boss. Physically coercing a dog to do things, holding him down, hitting him with your foot, staring him in the face, anything incorporating forceful or pain-causing handling, training methods, or tools such as choke chains, prong collars, or shock electric collars can easily cause intimidation or fear in the dog. This is the last thing any dog needs, but particularly a foster dog whose world is already out of control, turned upside down, and full of stress. It can also result in an aggressive response from the dog, and dogs who bite people tend to have short lives. Dog behavior, as well as that of many other species, including humans, combines these 4 concepts. Reflexive behavior. Reflexive behavior is unlearned or unconditioned behavior. When you touch your finger to a hot stove burner, you yank it back because it hurts. It's a reflex. No one had to teach you that. When you step on your dog's paw, he yelps and moves away because it hurts. No one had to teach him that. Classical associative respondent behavior. Classical conditioning is about making associations between stimuli. When you accidentally step on your dog's paw, or worse, deliberately use physical punishment, he learns to associate your close proximity to him with pain. Socializing your young foster pup will provide a positive classical association with a wide variety of things in his world so he grows up with an optimistic attitude about the world. Implementing a classical counter-conditioning program with a fearful or under-socialized adult dog can give him a new, more positive association with things that frighten him. Negative classical associations can lead to aggression. Dogs who are trained with forceful, fear, or pain-causing methods can develop a negative classical association with training and sometimes fight back. If a dog has bad experiences with young children, he can learn to growl at and bite children in order to keep himself safe. Classical associations and the emotional responses that accompany them are not under the dog's deliberate control, any more than your own classical associations are. Are you terrified of spiders or snakes because some cruel playground bully dropped one down the front of your shirt at recess? Try to control your response when one crawls across your foot. That's classical conditioning. Operant behavior and conditioning. With operant conditioning, a dog makes deliberate behavior choices in anticipation of the consequences of that behavior. A dog's goal in life, similar to ours, is to make good stuff happen and bad stuff go away. He chooses to sit because he knows sitting often makes treats happen. His positive association with treats prompts him to sit deliberately in hopes of creating the consequence of getting a treat. He avoids being under your feet so he doesn't get hurt. His negative association with the pain of being stepped on prompts him to deliberately stay away from your feet in order to avoid the consequence of getting hurt. The 4 principles of operant conditioning. Behavioral scientist B.F. Skinner identified the quadrants of operant conditioning that define the principles of an animal's or human's deliberate behavior choices. It's helpful for you to know these in order to understand what is motivating your foster dog's behaviors. First, a couple of definitions. Positive, something is added. Negative, something is taken away. Reinforcement, future behavior increases. Punishment, future behavior decreases. When you combine those terms, you get the 4 principles or quadrants of operant conditioning. Positive reinforcement. The dog's behavior makes a good thing happen. Future behavior increases because we all want to make good stuff happen. Example, your dog sits, you give him a cookie. He sits more often because he figures out that sits make cookies happen. You want positive reinforcement to be the primary principle you use in your interactions with your foster dog because it helps build confidence as well as better relationships between dogs and humans. Positive punishment. The dog's behavior makes a bad thing happen. Future behavior decreases because no one wants a bad thing to happen. Example, your dog jumps up on you and you knee him in the chest to show him that jumping up causes pain. Your dog jumps up less in the future and he may also be unwilling to approach you because he learned that humans cause pain. This is not recommended. You want to avoid the use of positive punishment because it creates stress for your foster dog, which can lead to behavior problems, including aggression, and it can easily damage his trust in humans. Chances are his trust in humans has already been damaged. You don't want to add to that. Negative reinforcement. The dog's behavior makes a bad thing go away. Future behavior increases because we all like bad things to go away and stay away. Example, your mail carrier pushes your mail through a slot in your front door. Your foster dog barks at the intruder and the intruder goes away. The dog learns to bark sooner and more ferociously when he hears the mail carrier coming up the walkway, and louder and longer as the mail carrier leaves because he is convinced his barking is making the intruder leave. There is some limited use for negative reinforcement in a good behavior modification program, but it must be done carefully under professional supervision. The bad thing should not be presented at a level that causes the dog undue stress. Negative punishment. The dog's behavior makes a good thing go away. Future behavior decreases because we all want good stuff to stick around. Example, your foster dog jumps up on you and you say, "Oops," and turn your back on him to show him that jumping up makes your attention go away. He jumps up less in the future because he doesn't want you to go away, especially if you remember to give him attention, positive reinforcement, when he sits or stands quietly with forepaws on the floor. You can use negative punishment with your foster dog to let him know when he's doing an unwanted behavior, but you want to use it far less than you use positive reinforcement. If you find yourself using it a lot, you may need to rethink your management and training program. Cognition. Then there's the whole field of canine cognition. Our dog's ability to think, process thought, understand concepts, and have an awareness of the thought processes of other beings, known as metacognition. There was a time, many, many years ago, when scientists and philosophers told us that dogs and other animals didn't feel pain. We know now how cruelly wrong that was. Then we were told that only humans could make and use tools. Now we know that many species of animals, including other primates, birds, and others, can make and use tools. Go to YouTube and search crow tool to see some incredible clips of a European crow making and using tools. Then scientists conceded that other animals could make and use tools, but of course, they didn't have human emotions. In fact, how species-centric is it for us to even call them human emotions? We know now that they are simply emotions, and that dogs and many other species of animals share a range of emotions very similar to ours. Ask any dog owner if her dog can be happy, sad, angry, fearful, loving, and you will get a resounding yes response. Those are emotions. That leaves us with cognition. A dog's cognitive ability is very limited, behavioral scientists told us in the not too distant past. They are long domesticated and domestication dulls intelligence. Once again, scientists are proving themselves wrong. Only in the last 10 to 15 years have dogs even been considered legitimate behavioral study subjects. Now that there are canine cognition laboratories around the world, science is making amazing discoveries about our dogs' ability to reason, problem solve, grasp concepts, and just plain think. Rather than dulling intelligence, it now seems more likely that their close association with humans has enhanced their mental abilities. Dr. Brian Hare operates one such canine cognition lab at Duke University in North Carolina. In his recently published book, The Genius of Dogs, Hare calls it a revolution in the study of canine intelligence and gives many detailed examples of our dog's incredible cognitive abilities. So don't sell your foster dog short. As you go through the fulfilling experience of giving your foster dogs a second chance at a first-class life, take the time to give them the best chance possible by working with their incredible capacity to think and learn, using modern, effective, scientific, positive reinforcement-based training that creates relationships between dogs and humans based on mutual trust, respect, and love. Basic training. You can greatly enhance the probability of your foster dog's future success if you provide some basic training while he is with you. Behaviors every foster dog should know include sit, down, wait, walk on leash, polite greeting. Take advantage of one of more of the excellent dog training books listed in the back of this book for detailed information on how to train these and other useful behaviors. You can also look for positive, reinforcement-based trainers in your area and sign your foster up for group classes and/or private training. In addition, it will be very useful if you can crate train your fosters while they are with you. With all the caveats about over-crating in mind, teaching your fosters to love their crates can be invaluable for a number of reasons. 1. Your foster dog can take his crate with him when he is adopted, which will make the transition much easier. His own familiar bedroom magically appears in his new home. 2. Transporting dogs in vehicles is safer and much less stressful for dog and human when the dog rides well in a crate. 3. Crates are also useful if you, or your foster's new humans, stay in a hotel while traveling. Again, his own private bedroom goes with him, reducing his travel stress and ensuring you won't be paying for dog damage done to your hotel room. 4. Management, for you and for his new family, is much easier when he is happy about crating. 5. House training also happens more easily when you can confine your foster to his crate in between bathroom trips. Now we will turn to problem behaviors often associated with dogs who need foster care that require more significant training and management skills.